Good morning. It is so good to see you. I am so glad because I have been missing you so much. I need to see your smiling faces in front of me, but you know what? I can't, and that's okay too, because it's more important that you stay home and stay safe. And remember, wash those hands a lot. So, we've been journeying with Jesus, and he has set his face to Jerusalem, knowing the cross was coming. And so we've been setting our faces to travel with Jesus as he goes to Jerusalem. Well, guess what? He's here. This is a very special day. In fact, this is a very special week because this Sunday is Palm Sunday. And it's the day Jesus arrives in Jerusalem. And when he arrived in Jerusalem, there was such excitement, there was such celebration. Everyone was cheering. They were waving palm branches. They were saying Hosanna, which is kind of like saying woohoo. And so here he is riding into Jerusalem. And the people were cheering. But you know, Jesus was not. Jesus was weeping because Jesus loved the people in Jerusalem. And though those people were like his sheep, and remember last week we talked about Jesus was the door of the sheep and how he wanted to gather them in his arms and keep them safe. Well, the people didn't believe because they were cheering on Sunday. But on Good Friday, what were they saying? Crucify him, crucify him. And so Jesus, as he was coming into Jerusalem, was weeping over Jerusalem. He was wanting to gather us in his hands, in his arms, and just hold us tightly. But that wasn't what the people wanted. They wanted a king to come in Jerusalem and to do all these kingly things like conquer the Romans and all of that. Instead, Jesus didn't come like a conquering king. Back then, a conquering king came on a stallion, a war horse, and he was mighty and in violence, and the people were scared. But if the king came on a donkey, the king came in peace. And Jesus is our king, and he was riding a donkey because he's the Prince of Peace. So Jesus came into Jerusalem wanting to hold his people in his arms like a good shepherd. In fact, that's what Jesus said. I am the good shepherd. And I want to tell you a story about a good shepherd. You see, there was a good shepherd that had 100 sheep. And their sheep were in a fold, nice and safe and secure. And so in the morning, the good shepherd would come to the one door of the fold, and he would call his sheep because a good shepherd knows his sheep by name. And his sheep, because they belonged to the good shepherd in the fold, would hear his voice and know his voice. So they'd start leaving. They'd start coming out of the one door and following Jesus to where? Green pastures, still waters. And so as they would come out, Jesus would call them by name, and he'd say, here's Mary Grace. Oh, there's Sarah Claire. I see Joseph. Oh, there comes William. Oh, there went Derek flying by. Derek's always running. I see Ella, followed by Grace. And one by one, he would name all of his sheep, and they would follow him. Well, they would spend the day with the Good Shepherd, who was keeping them safe from wild animals, from thieves, from robbers, from anything that would harm them. And then when it started getting dark, he would lead them back to the fold, and they would follow him. And as they would go in the one door, he would count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 96, 97, 98, 99. 99? Wait a minute. I thought I had 100 sheep. So he goes into the fold and he starts looking around, and sure enough, he said, okay, I know which one's missing. He always wants to wander off, and he always wants to take a path that's not my path. He wants to go on his own. So he goes and he tells his wife, okay, I've got a sheep I've got to go look for. And she says, what do you mean go look for? You got 99 right there. He said, I know, but I need 100. You see, I'm the shepherd, and I have to have all of my sheep. So she says, well, it's looking kind of rough out there. I think there's rain, maybe a storm. I don't care. He takes his rod, he takes his staff, he starts walking. He's calling for that sheep. The wind blows, the rain starts. He's wet, he's cold, the lightning's flashing, the thunder's rolling. But wait a minute. He thinks he hears something. Bah, bah. He's calling his sheep. He's listening. He's walking. He gets to the top of a cliff, and he looks down. There's that little lamb, holding on for dear life. He's fallen over the edge, and he's trapped on a little ledge. Well, the shepherd takes his staff, and he leans it down, and he gently pulls the sheep up. And then he takes the sheep, and he brings it close to his heart, and then wraps it in his cloak so that that sheep is all nice and warm now. Because you see, that is one wet, dirty, scared, shaking, cold little lamb. He walks it down to the fold. He takes it in, gives it to his mama, says, here, mama, here's your baby. And as he walks out of the fold, the good shepherd says, 100 and smiles. You see, boys and girls, Jesus is our good shepherd. And what he wants to do is he wants to take us in his arms. And he wants to hold us close to his heart. And he wants to enfold us in that warm cloak of love because he loves us. And that's exactly what he wanted to do with Jerusalem. He wanted to take those people in his arms. But he couldn't because they were shouting, crucify him on Good Friday. And you see, our good shepherd, that is Jesus, on Good Friday, he became the lamb that takes away the sin of the world. And so from being a good shepherd, he came to be a sacrificial lamb. You see, there's something else about a good shepherd we learned. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. And that's what Jesus did for us. So this week, as we go through every single day of Holy Week, I want you to remember Jesus is our good shepherd, but he became our sacrificial lamb.